Hello there, guitarist Hristo Vitchev here, and please welcome to episode 8 of 251 Ways to Voice a 251 progression. Alright, let's get started. We're going to continue episode number 8 by harmonizing the ninth of our 2 chord on the 2nd string this time. This is the note E, which happens to be the ninth of our D minor 7 chord. And the first option we're going to explore, it's a very basic way, it's a very easy way, it doesn't require any stretching, that many of you might be familiar with, but it's still one of the greatest sounding ways to comp a 251 in this particular range of the guitar. So we're going to start with this basic D minor 9 chord. This is a 1-3-7-9 voicing, and it's spelled as a D, F, C, and E. Respectively in the harmony, D is the root, F is your flat 3, C is your flat 7, and then E is your 9. Now once we resolve to our G7 harmony, the only thing that we're going to do is we're going to lower the C, which is the 7th of our 2 chord, a half step down to the note B, that becomes the 3rd of our G7 chord, and this, again, many of you might refer to this as a D minor 6 voicing, but this is also a G13. Very basic G13 voicing, which is spelled as a D, F, B, and E. And in the G7 harmony, D happens to be the 5th, F is your flat 7th, B is the 3rd, and E is the 13th. From here, one thing I like to do is I like to contrast this voicing with the sharp 11 as well. And so basically what I'm doing is I'm lowering the note E to the note C sharp. The rest of the chord stays the same, so now the chord is spelled D, F, B, and C sharp, which produces a G7 sharp 11. And one last final voicing I like to use in this range to kind of outline a very nice passage over the G7 is to simply play the tritone of G, which happens to be the note D flat or C sharp, and play that as a regular D flat or C sharp 9 chord, which is spelled D flat, F, C flat, and harmonically B, and then E flat. Respectively in the harmony, that's the 1, the 3, the flat 7, and the 9th of D flat or C sharp, but against the G bass that you're going to be playing it over, D flat becomes a sharp 11 or flat 5, F is your flat 7th, B is your, or C flat or B natural, it's your 3rd, and E flat is your flat 13 or sharp 5. So we're just tritoning the chord to produce a more altered sound. So here's a sequence of 5 chords that we used. We started with a G13, which went to a G7 sharp 11, that eventually went to a D flat 7, which is functioning as a G7 sharp 11 flat 13 voicing. And we're going to resolve in turn to this very basic C major with the added 9th, and this happens to be spelled as a C, G, B, and D. Respectively, in the C major 7 harmony, C is the root, G is the 5th, B is the 7th, and D happens to be the 9th. So here's what we have. Here's the full sequence, very basic way. We have D minor 9, it turns into a G13, G7 sharp 11, G7 sharp 11 flat 13, and C major 9. One more time, here's the D minor 9, which turns into a G13 sharp 11, flat 13 sharp 11, and the C add 9 or major 9. So if I play it in time, here's what we're going to have. Now for the second option of this video, I would like to show you another way that I like to harmonize the ninth of a minor chord. And in this case, we're going to play this voicing. This is a D minor 9, and it's spelled as an F, C, D, and E. Now, respectively in the D minor 7 harmony, F is your flat 3, C is your flat 7, D is your root, and E is your 9. So another option for a D minor 9. When I start this option, some of the voice leading I like to do when I go to a G7 harmony is to simply move to this G7. Now this happens to be a G7 with the sharp 11 and the 13, and it's spelled as an F, B, C sharp, and E. respectively in G7. F is your flat 7th, B is the 3rd, C sharp is the flat 5 or sharp 11, and E is your 6 or 13. It's a very nice sounding voicing. And the one I'm gonna use to contrast with is going to be a G7 flat 13, which is spelled in this fashion. Still the same 13/7, which is the F and the B that remain, but that C sharp is gonna go one note higher to the note D, which is the 5, and then the E is gonna go one note down, 1 degree down I should say, to the note E flat or D sharp, which is the flat 13 or sharp 5. So it's a very nice contrary motion happening in the inner voices, because I had a C sharp and E moving to D and E flat. And so basically over the 13/7, which I'm sustaining, we have this. And then I'm gonna resolve to this very cool C major 7 voicing, which is spelled as a G, B, D, and E. So respectively the C major harmony, this is your G is the 5th, B is the 7th, D is the 9th, E is the 3rd. So if I play the full progression slowly, we started with this D minor, which moved to the G7 sharp 11 13, G7 flat 13, and resolve to this C major 9. So one more time again, here's your D minor, moving to a G7 sharp 11 with the 13, G7 sharp 5 or G7 flat 13, and resolving to this basic C major 9. If I play it in time, this is what we're gonna hear. Now for the third and last option that we're going to show in this video, we're going to move that same note an octave higher. So I'm going to put the note E an octave higher on the 2nd string, so I can show you some of the left expansion voicings that I will be using to harmonize the 2-5-1 in the key of C major. And again, all the voicings that I'm playing throughout this video come from my book Between the Voicings. If you're interested, you can check that on my website, and there's going to be some info on this video as to how to get the textbook. But of course, the important thing here is the concept, and hopefully you can get the concept and apply it to any voicings that you use in your own playing. So now back to this, option number 3. This is how I'm going to harmonize the E this time. Again, this is the 9th of our 2 chord, or D minor 7, and this is the voicing we're going to use this time in this position. It's spelled as an A, F, G, and E. And this happens to be a D minor 9-11. A is the 5th, F is the flat 3, G is your 11th or 4th, and E is the 9th. When I get to the 5 chord, I'm going to start with this voicing. I'm pretty much voicing it as a B half diminished with the 11th, which functions as a G 9-13 voicing. So it's spelled as a B, F, A, N, E. In the G7 harmony, B is your 3rd, F is the flat 7th, A happens to be your 9th, E is your 13th. And I'm going to contrast that G7 by voicing an actual F half diminished voicing. This is a basic drop 2 F half diminished that functions as a G7 flat 9 flat 13 voicing, because B happens to be again your 3rd in G7, F is your flat 7, then you have an A flat which is your flat 9, and you have an E flat which is your flat 13. And so I'm coming from this chord, which is a G7 with the 9th and the 13th, to a G7 with the flat 9, flat 13. So here's so far we have the 2 chord. We're going to the G7 regular, and G7 outer. And I'm going to resort to a very basic voicing in fourths for the C major. This is spelled as a B, E, A, D, everything in fourths. And within the C major harmony, this happens to be the 7th, B is the 7th, E is the 3rd, A is the 6th or 13th, and D is your 9th. So it's a C major 13 voicing. So if I go one more time slowly over the entire progression, we have D minor, the first G7, the outer G7 and your C major. One more time, here's your D minor, then here's your regular G7, your outer G7, and your resolution to C major. If I play it in time, we'll hear this. So now that we have finished all three options presented in this video, let me go back one more time and review every single one of them one more time slowly. So we started with this very basic D minor 9 in option number 1. It went to a G13, then G7 sharp 11, then a G7 sharp 11 flat 13 voiced as a D flat 9 and resolved to a C add 9. One more time, D minor 9, G13, G7 sharp 11, D flat 7 in the place of G, creating a G7 sharp 11 flat 13, resolving to a C add 9, C major 9. Option number 2 started with this D minor 9, which went to this G7 sharp 11, 13 2, then went to this G7 flat 13, and then it resolved to this C major 9. One more time, it went to a D minor 9, moving to a G7 with a sharp 11 and the 13, G7 with a flat 13 or sharp 5, resolving to a C major 9. In option 3, we moved to this position of the fretboard, and we started with this D minor 11, then we moved to a G13, which also has the 9th in it, then that became a G flat 13 flat 9, and that resolved to a C major 6-9 that it's voiced all in fourths. One more time, this D minor 9-11, then our regular G, which we are voicing as a B half diminished, then our outer G, which we're voicing as an F half diminished, and resolving to this C major voiced all in fourths. So if I voice all three options in time, this is how they would sound. Thank you so much for watching episode 8 of 251 Ways to Voice a 251, and I do look forward to seeing you in episode number 9, where we continue our exploration and we'll be talking about harmonizing the flat 3 of our 2 chord on the 2nd string. Thank you.